Hello, welcome to the second video of the series. So, in the last video, that was the first of this, I have explained that I'm creating this series to get an understanding about the detail of, of, of the LWC particularly. But then there is one thing. I mean, if you wanted to really understand LWC well, there are a few of JavaScript concepts that you must be aware of. So what I have decided is like let's first begin. Let's first start with those concepts of JavaScript, which are something like we essentially use them while if we are writing the LWC codes, and later on we are going to uh, make a deep dive into all other things related to LWC. So in within the same context, in my last video, I have explained like how we can make a connection between this VS Code to one of the Salesforce org. And these are when the same concept is going to be repeated every time because whenever if we are creating an LWC, so we wanted to deploy that we are going to repeat the same what we have done in the past in the last video rather. And this is why and why we have to do this is one of the reason wherein when you are coding in LWC, you cannot directly code this inside your developer console. Like when you are coding an Apex, so that time you can directly code it inside a developer console. Rather, even if you are creating an Aura component, the Aura is also can be created inside in the Salesforce developer console. But typically when we are dealing with the LWC, so LWC is something which you cannot directly write it inside the developer console. So we we have literally two options for this. So if we are creating an LWC component, so what we have to do is either we can make a use of VS Code, which is most popular in most of the developers. There would be one another thing which we are going to cover in the later videos is something called as Lightning Studio, and that is a Salesforce default extension which you typically would require to install it inside in your inside in your Google Chrome. So with one of the video, we are going to talk onto the same, like how we can install that Lightning Studio and how we can make a use of Lightning Studio. What are the advantages with the Lightning Studio, particularly over the VS Code? So we're going to discuss all those things, but that would be in upcoming videos. Now, in most of my videos, I'm going to make a use of VS Code because there are a lot many extensions. There are a lot many additional things which I have added into this VS Code, and which makes your coding easy, which will help you out in lot many different forms. I would recommend one thing. Let me go with what I have installed. Let me show you all those extensions and some of them which I wanted you to install, which you can install would be let me try show you that. So I have a lot many extensions which you don't probably require that, but then there are some of the things like this is one of the thing called as prettier, and it would make your code more formatted. So this is one again a good extension. Some of the extensions which are mandatory to connect your Salesforce with Salesforce or with the VS Code. One of them is Salesforce CLI integration, and one of the extension which I wanted everyone to install is something called as Go Live. It is shown over here. I was trying to find it out. There's one extension. This we got name a live server, not Go Live server. So this is one of the extension which I would recommend you. The reason why up to what extent we are going to require this till the time we are covering this basic JavaScript concepts. Now to run those onto the browser, we're going to require it. Later on, when we'll move on to the LWC, we're not going to require this, but for a time being, till the time when we are learning this JavaScript concept, so to run them and to see the output on your browser particularly, we would going to require this. So I would recommend that you'll have to install this extension called as live server, and how to use that will be the part of discussion in the upcoming discussions. All right. Now, so for today's session, for this video, I have decided to cover a very important topic called as spread operator. Now, let me open a file for this one. I'm going to create a new HTML file. Any name. But don't forget to give the extension, which is very important. You can ultimately give any name. Normally we give it as index, but you can give any name. But the most important part is not naming, is like, giving the extension. So I'm creating one file with this name. Now, you have to store that. You can give any path. Let me try giving, I should give some path for this. So just a minute, I'm selecting the proper path for this one. Okay, I'll be storing it inside in this basic JavaScript concepts. And here I will be creating that file. All right. Now, so the concept which I would be covering for this video is something called as a spread operator. So spread operator typically looks like in like this one, like three dots. And there is a lot many times when we use this spread operator. So typically what are those? What is the purpose of, what are the advantages of using a spread operator? And what is the concept of deep copy and shallow copy? So let's try to understand all those. Okay. So what I'm going to do would be, first of all, let me see, mostly if to introduce the topic, what is the purpose of a spread operator? So basically, the spread operator mostly is used when you are dealing with arrays, when you are dealing with the objects. Okay. So if there is a requirement wherein you wanted either to concatenate two of the arrays, or maybe you wanted to concatenate. When I'm saying concatenate, it's mean combining the values. Okay, combining what is present inside an array or maybe an object. Okay, one more thing. I mean, I feel like when I say the object, people might confuse with the Salesforce object. No, when I'm saying an object, it doesn't mean the Salesforce object, right? Rather, the object, if you are familiar with something called as JSON format. So JSON format is something like, it's a key and a value pair. It's a key and a value pair. So JSON is typically a combination of two things. Every JSON entity is always a combination of two things, key and value, where keys are always unique and the value could be unique, could be duplicated also. And this is what. So when saying an object actually means a similar kind of entity. Object is something, a combination of your key and the value. Whereas an array typically is something called as, array. We used to, as a formal definition, we always say that array is a collection of similar elements, similar kind of elements, homogeneous elements, something, when we say homogeneous means entities of all same types. So in our JavaScript, or maybe in the coming days with LWC, there would be a lot many times when the requirement goes like, you have to combine the entities of two of arrays, two of objects. Objects are most common in that case. Or this is one of the use of spread operator. So when we wanted to perform the concatenation, when we wanted to combine the values of two arrays or objects, that time we use spread operator. This is one of the requirement, one of the use. Second, and I'm going to cover all this, like, right now I'm just trying to introduce the topic, but later on with this coding, I will be covering everything. Okay. So, and the second use case of a spread operator is to expand, is to open the strings, is to expand the strings. I mean, if there is a string, a lot many times, you would you either you are sending like a big strings like binary blob values, binary large, or some other values. So there would be a lot many times when there would be a series of characters, a series of strings. And we wanted to expand that. So the methods which we use is sometimes called as JSON.parse string. So similar kind of methods are there which we use for this. Anyways, I'll not make it more complicated because in the later days, in the later videos, we are going to see those use cases. What does it mean by JSON.parse strings and everything? We'll be using those methods. So the best way to do that is like, whenever the time comes, whenever the use case comes, apply that method and later on you'll be understand. Right now, I'm just trying to make you understand what is the purpose of spread operator. So mostly what I have find is the first one is to combine or concatenate the value. The second is to expand the strings, to open the strings. And the third, which is again is most common, is to add the element, is to add the new elements inside an array or maybe an object. Okay, so these are three general use cases. Maybe there could be some another uses, but what I have mostly used is three of these. So spread operator is used to either concatenate, combining of the values of an array or an object, or to expand the string, or to add the new elements inside in your array, or maybe an object. All right. So what I'm going to do would be like, I'll be just to save the time, because I'm using the free versions of these Zoom. So just provide me 40 or 45 minutes to record a session. That's the reason I just have copied, I have copied the HTML so that I would save my time. Okay. But the JS part would be something that I'm just saving it out. JS part is something which I'm going to code. All right. So that was the one thing. Now, just a moment, just a moment. All right. So just to save our time, I have copied the HTML part and uh, but the JavaScripts that I'm going to do, I have created one another file called as MyScript.js, and here inside in the HTML, as you can see, with the script tag, I have made a connection between these two files. So as you can see, the source is myscript.js. And remember one thing, whenever you are creating a file, it's very important to give the extensions. So these are essentially important. So when I have created this index, I have given index.html, and in the same way, when I have created one new file. Unfortunately, I forgot to start the recording that time, but it's a very similar thing. Like, you just go over here, go to this extension. It's very simple to create. Inside in your VS Code, you have this extension. And once you make a click onto this, right, it would give you the option. It would give you the option to create the file. You just have to select the folder where you want it to get. For example, if I wanted to create something inside in this folder, I'll select the folder and I'll create a new file. So it essentially would be created inside in that. So this is how, like, I just have created one more file called as MyScript. And to make a connection between this MyScript and index.html, I have used a tag called as script tag. And these are some of the basics of your HTML, by the way. Once again, I would like to tell you that the videos which I'm creating is more towards, more towards, or the relevancy of this video is more towards the people who have a basic understanding of HTML, a basic understanding of LWC, and they wanted to brush up their concept. They wanted to have the more hands-on in terms of the Salesforce part. So that's the reason I'm not covering the basic topics. Rather, I'm just introducing, like, this is something which I did. Okay, and there would be a lot many. I personally have found a lot many good videos on YouTube wherein if you wanted to learn everything from the beginning, there is a lot many contents, right? That's the reason I haven't concentrated on that, because there are already there is a lot many materials on video wherein you can go and you can learn the basics of those kinds of things. Now, so we were talking about something called as the use of spread of it. Okay. And I have told that mostly there are three of the uses, right? The first is if I wanted, like, if I wanted to perform the concatenation of two maybe arrays of an object. So if there are two objects, there are two arrays, they have the values inside it, they have certain entities inside in them. And we wanted to concatenate and we wanted to combine them. So that at that moment of time, we'll make a use of spread operator. That is the first use case. Later on, there are three of them. So I'm going to explain all three of them with the help of this. Now see, the first use case is to combine two arrays. So what I'm going to do would be, and here is the time with this example, you will going to understand something called as the concept of shallow copy and deep copy. Okay. Or maybe I'll show you that later on when I would be explaining the advantages of spread operator. Anyways, so I would be creating an array first. So let me create an array. Let array one. Okay. So array one equals to, I shall give certain values to this. So let's suppose the values are 1, 2, 3. Okay. And similarly, let me try printing out this too. So console.log array one. Okay. So this is like I have created first array and I have printed that. So where we are going to see this, just give me a time. Let me complete this code and we are going to see the outputs. Okay. I'll do one more thing. Okay, let it be. Now, similarly, I have another array called as array2. And let me try giving the values like 1, 2, 3 is already there. So it will be like 4 and 5 and 6. Similarly, let me print this array2 values also. So it will be like, console.log array2. Now, I would be creating one more array called as connected array. Connected. And with this array, or let me do one thing. I'll first show you the output of these two. Fine. I'll just save this. Control S I have used from the keyboard. Otherwise, you can go over here in the file and you can have this save this. Okay. But it's always good to use the keyboard shortcuts. Now, I wanted to see the output of this. Okay, I wanted to see the output. So what I'm going to do is like how we are going to, that's the reason I was saying like, you should go with this live server extension and you should install this into your VS Code environment. So there are two options to do this. What you can do is like, you can make a click onto this icon, go live. Take care. And there's one more on your HTML. If you would make a right click, not with the JS. Like if you would open on the JS, if you make a right click, you won't see that option. But this happens with the HTML. So on your HTML, you make a right click, and here do you see this first option? Open with live server. So either you can go like this, either you can click, or the second is like, if this icon, if this is visible to you, there's a small icon on this bottom strip, whatever you call it. So you can make a click any one of them. Okay, I shall click it over here. So it is starting that now it has opened, but because that screen is not shared, it's not coming to you. Let me bring it over here. So I just have brought this one. Okay, so let me do one more thing. Okay. Now see, here what you have to do is like, you have to go to, you actually would have to inspect it out to see the output. So again, there is two things. What you can from the keyboard, you can press Control Shift and I, or otherwise you can just, with the right click also, I'm not sure where is that option to inspect. But what I usually do is, I press Control Shift and I. This is how like, I go and inspect this out. So I'm just expanding this part. What is happening? Just a moment. Ideally, it should print it out. There is no filters. Okay, I should let me. I was pressing Control Shift R to refresh this out, but still it's not coming. 1 second. I'm just going back to my code and okay. Let me try giving a statement also, like array1 equals to array. And here also, let me try giving a statement like array2 equals to, uh, pressing this out, the value of array2, I will save it out. Let me try seeing this HTML also, if there is a valid connection between them. Viewport content is good. Title I have given us the basics. Type session. Script command is my script JSON. This seems to be good. Okay. Anyways, started. I'm going back to this one and I'm just trying to refresh it out once again. Just give me a moment, guys. I'm not sure why this is happening. Yes. So there might be a certain issues with, with the live server connections that time. That could be a reason why it was not coming. Anyways, as you can see, the message which is there inside in HTML. Okay, this is coming up over here. So what I'm going to do would be like, I would be inspecting that. So to press that inspect, there is a certain option over here. There is an option to inspect, but what I mostly do is like, I mostly press Control Shift I for this. That's the reason I'm not aware where is that option. So I usually press Control Shift and I for this. This is like how I mostly do. But there is a certain options over here. If you can explore that, you're going to find out how to, where is that option to inspect. I guess somewhere around over here is an option to inspect. I mostly use keyboard shortcuts. Okay. Now see, here is like, your array1, and because it's an array, it's always printed like this. So the values of array, as you can see, is 0, 1, and 2, whereas the value for number 2 array is 4 and 5 and 6. Okay. Now, this was our two arrays which we have created. Now I'm going to do one more thing. I would be creating one more array. So let connected array. Let connected array be. Here I'm going to make a use of your spread operator. So for the first use case wherein I have told you we can concatenate, we can combine. Meaning of concatenation is combining the values of two arrays. Okay. So with the help of a spread operator, what you can do is like you can literally combine the values of two arrays. So how to use the spread operator and how does it looks like? So a spread operator is just these three dots and nothing else. The three dots. Okay, these three dots means your spread operator. Okay. Now I have taken this suggestion from I have certain intelligent engines which I have installed, and that's the reason I always get this intelligence, the advanced suggestions. Okay, you can also try out the same extension. It makes life easier for the developers. Like you can keep, I mean, the suggestions it would provide, you can keep it, you can discard it. It's up to you. If that is meaningful, you can keep it up. Okay. So what I did is like, I have used the spread operator in front of, I mean, in the beginning of the names of all these two arrays, in both of the arrays, like for array1 and for array2, I have. So this actually means that I wanted to combine the value of array1 to the array2. Now, after this concatenation, if I would be printing, if I would be printing, that the connected array value. So how does it looks like to be? So what you have to do is like you just have to save it out. And when you save it, it's this page is automatically refreshed. And it's refreshed every time. When if you did something over here, you just save it out. And when you save it, the page over here is going to be refreshed automatically. So after that, you can see the value of connected array. The first three values, what you are looking are the values coming from array one, whereas the next three values, this 4, 5, 6 is coming from array two. So this is what, this is what the first use case. Now here at this point. So one thing what we have understood from this example is we can make a use of your spread operator for combining the values of two arrays. Okay. Uh, Two arrays or two objects. I'll do one thing. I'll take example of I'm also going to take some examples on the objects, but later on. First, I wanted to keep it simple. That's the reason, because I'm not sure whether you are aware with the objects, the format, the JSON kind of format of the object. So what I'm going to do would be for few of the examples which I would be taking in the beginning of the sessions, with some of I'm going to take this with the arrays later on gradually as we will move forward with some other concepts. I'm slowly introduce the objects also, maybe with second or third sessions. Okay, anyways. So now with this example, what we just have demonstrated was something like how we can combine the values from two arrays into one of them. If you have any understanding of programming, some other programming, uh, maybe some of the object-oriented programming like Java, maybe a C++ in short. So how we usually do this is like, we first iterate, we'll take the help of some of the loops like for loops or while or do while, whatever. And we iterate the values from one of the array and we'll make it a store. We'll make it copy 2 seconds. So it's literally the programming efforts, a lot of programming efforts, maybe around 5 or 6 lines of the programs are required for this. In a normal programming language like Java or maybe your, C++, some similar kind of C even, which is very basic language. But anyways, those who have a little understanding of programming, they will surely agree to this point. Like if we would try to do the same thing with the programming, so it would require at least 3 or 4 or 5 lines of the code, which will involve your loops to perform to perform the fetching of the records, to perform the iterations of the records, to take the values from one of the array and later on copied it to the another one. And typically it would require two arrays, two for loops, sorry, over here. One to iterate the first and second to iterate the second one, like this. But if you would examine this, if you would examine how simple how simple is to make a use of spread operator, just three dots. You just have to put them, you just have to put it in front of the name of the array. And with this, the internal code of JavaScript, the internal compilers would essentially understand what we wanted to do. Okay. So with this example, the first use case was how we can concatenate, how we can combine the values of two arrays and objects. You just have to give three dots in front of it. So how simple is this? Only remember, like, the format you have to remember. It's like this has to be given in front of the name of both of them, in front of the name of both of them. So if you have two arrays, if you have two objects, you have to include the spread operator in front of both of them, not with one. If you would make it in one of them, it would rather not work. Okay. Now this first one. Now within the same example, let me try introducing one more thing. What is the concept of deep copy and shallow copy? Okay. So let's try it. Okay, I'll write something and you observe the code. Let me do one thing. I would create another array for that. So let me my favorite fruit. Something like this. Right? Fruits. My favorite fruit. Okay, and it has given me this. This intelligence works very good. So I'm creating one array wherein I have entered the name of few of the fruits. And they are not my favorites. Actually, it has been, maybe it was the favorite of this artificial intelligence. Anyways, similarly, I'm printing that. Okay, so I'm printing this as my favorite. Now, I'll do one more. Okay, so you can once if I would save it out and we go back to this, and you can see what are the values of this, what are the values. As soon as you will save something over there, this live server would immediately catch it and print it onto your browser. Okay. So you can see over here, the value is like, it's coming as like mango and banana and pineapple, whatever. Now, I will do one thing. I will do one. I'll create one more array. Okay. And now concentrate. So with this concept only, you're going to understand what is the meaning of a deep copy and how spread operator would help you out to create something called as shallow copy. Okay. So what is the concept of a deep copy and how spread operator help you to create shallow copy, that would you will be going to understand. So I am creating one more array called as copy of my favorite fruits. My favorite fruits. Okay, and I'm not going to use any function. So we have my favorite fruits. We have my favorite fruits, and I'm creating one more array called as copy of my favorite fruits. Now here, what I'm going to do, I would be copying and transferring the value directly from my favorite. So whatever the value of my favorite fruits, they are going to be get assigned to this newly created array. Okay, so they are going to be get assigned to this newly created array. Okay, they are going to be get assigned to this newly. So now if you would go and if you try printing it out, so console.log, console.log. So let me try it. I'll accept this suggestion of Amazon Q. Amazon Q is the name of that intelligence, the artificial intelligence, which is trying to make my life simpler with this. Okay. So now what I did is like, see, observe this. I created an array. I have supplied some of the values to it. I printed it out. Later on, I created another array. It's not mandatory to make it an array. See, you can see I haven't used any array symbol. Array symbol is this, the square. The opening and closing square bracket is an array symbol. I just have given one name. Usually we define with the help of let keyword, we usually define a variable or a property. When we talk more in terms of JavaScript, we don't use terminologies like variables. We rather call this as a property. So if you are familiar with some of the programming languages, we have terminologies like variables, constants, and all, right? Constants we do have in the JavaScript, but variables we usually don't call it as a variable. We rather call it as a property. So there are to define a property, there are would be two things: let and constant, const. In my upcoming videos, when we go more towards LWC, right now what we are doing, we are just trying to understand some of the basic concepts of JavaScript. And there would be a few more concepts which I feel is, that's the reason I have started my video from. Otherwise, I could have taken it directly from like decorators or some starting concepts of LWCs, like your life cycle hooks and all. But I come back 2 to 3 steps back and I decided to take it from some of the basic concepts. So, hum jab aage badhenge, as and when we'll go further into this, I would tell you what is the difference between defining a property with let or defining a property with a constant or with something else. We're going to talk on that. But chalo, abhi kya hai? What I did is like, I just have defined one property. And to this property, I'm assigning the value of my favorite. Acha, internally, what is my favorite? It's an array. So JavaScript is that much smart. It's smart enough to understand what is the data type of your source. And accordingly, whatever the data type of your source, it would convert this data type of destination, accordingly to match the same data type. So you have not defined what happens with your conventional programming languages. If you try to do this same thing with some other, it's obviously going to give you the error because it would ask you. You first have to define this as an array and then do this all. But JavaScript, ECMA 6, these are some of the high, what to say, the very advanced programming languages, and they understand if you are making this kind of statement. So it would first understand, oh, what is the data type of your source? The source is what? Source is your array, and that's why this data type has already become the array. So this way, like, I have copied the values of your source array into destination. And now if I try printing it out, let's see what. So we go to this console.log, and I'm inspecting this out, Control Shift I. Now the value of my favorite fruits are mango, banana, pineapple, and the copy which I have created is also mango, so banana and pineapple, the same values. Very obviously, it would both of them would contain the same values. Okay, now see the magic. Now what I was talking about, let's talk on to that. So what I'm going to do right now is I'll just copy this again, and to this array. So to this array, I am entering one more value. I'm entering one more value. And because this is an array, you have something called as push command. Okay. I would entering one more fruit, one more record, one more value to this. And let me try printing out the same thing. So what I did is to the second one, I have entered one. And I haven't make any changes to my favorite fruit, right? The original one, I haven't make any changes. So I'll save it out. I will go to this console. And here you can see is now previously it was mango, banana, and pineapple. Now one more value which I have entered, which I have pushed is grapes. So that is appended and it has been entered in the last of this. Okay, it has been entered in the last of this. But to this whole process, I haven't made any changes to the original one. Exactly. Because this value grape, the new value, I have pushed it. I have entered this where? Inside in my favorite. I'll show you one thing. Now let me do one thing. I just copy this console statement and paste it out over here. And what do you think? Ideally, what should it contain? What do you think? What is your thought? What your thought tells to you? I haven't committed any changes to my favorite fruit. My favorite fruit originally have all these three values, mango, banana, and pineapple. I copied them to one more array called copy my favorite. Later on to my favorite, copy my favorite, which is the clone version. I have entered one value. I've entered one value, right? And we have seen that newly entered value, the grapes, have been appended at the last. But in this whole process, I haven't made any changes to the original content, which is my favorite fruit. So when I'm printing this my favorite fruit, in an ideal circumstances, I should only get mango, banana, and pineapple, right? I hope you all are agree with this. Let's see what happened with this. Okay. So I guess I have saved it. Yes, I have saved it out. I'm going it out. Now see. Now see. Here the assumption goes wrong. Here the assumption goes wrong. You can see the copy of the fruits to which I have entered, to which I have pushed the new value grapes. I haven't committed any changes to the original one, which was my favorite fruits. But you can see the my favorite fruit also have this newly entered value. How come this is possible? How come this is possible? How come the new value which you have entered inside a copy of my favorite has also been committed, has also been entered, has also been pushed to the original one, the grapes. Grapes, you can see, you pushed it out in the copied buffer, right? Let's go back to the code. So you have pushed it inside where, you pushed it over here. You pushed it over here. So ideally, it should only get copied. Ideally, it should only get inserted into the one wherein I'm pushing it out. But how come this is possible that it has also been entered into the original one? So this is the concept called as deep copy. Deep copy. Okay, deep copy. Let me brief you down. Let me elaborate. See, by default, this is a default behavior of a JavaScript runtime engine, a default behavior of your JavaScript compiler that it always create a single copy of your arrays. If you make, even though like, you, when you, at the point of time when you have created this array, so it has reserved a certain amount of cache memory of your browser. This is not coming, JavaScript is something which is not coming from your, anyways, from your server memory. It's always coming from your browser's memory, from your client memory, right? And that is the reason JavaScripts are very fast. This is the whole reason why we are going to learn the LWC, because LWC provide you the facility to do the computations in the front end. Okay, this is again going to be a topic of discussion जो हम बाद में कभी आगे चल के cover करेंगे इसको, but अभी हाँ. So the default behavior of a JavaScript is to always create something called as a single copy of everything. So the moment of time when you have created this array, the first one, my favorite, okay, it has entered all these value to one particular browser's memory's location, the cache memory location. Now, in the front end, you created one more array, and you feel that, oh, this, the values of copy of this array are are something which are referred from. I mean, it has taken some another piece of memory. Like the moment of time when you have created this second array, and you copied, you transferred the value of this to this. So in our back of the mind, what we were thinking that, this has been allotted a different portion of memory, a total two different portions of the memory. But to save the memory, JavaScript does not works like this. What it do? So you create any number of copy of this, it will only assign the values to one memory. And it is something like, whatever the memory, the name of this memory was myfruit, it is also named as copy of myfruit. If you would create one more copy, again, the name would be different, value would be same. And they will be stored only in one place rather than multiple. Because see, the browser's cache memory is very limited. Okay. And since the reason this is something called as a deep copy, why deep copy? Because the browser's cache memory is very limited. So JavaScript is designed in the backend, JavaScript is designed in a way that it would not make the duplicated values. It would not copy the values in multiple places just to save the memory. But in our programming, this is logically going wrong. Why? Because I was not intended to make any changes to the original one. There would be a lot many scenarios. Let me try to tell you that. See, in our real-time programming, there would be a lot many scenarios wherein we wanted to maintain separate copies. Let's suppose you are getting something from the integration. I'm just trying to give you one example. You're getting something from the integration. There is an integration, an inbound integration from where you are getting the values. And you wanted to perform a certain computation to decide, what sort of validation should be get applied for that one. So there is a piece of data which you get from something. Maybe you're getting it from an integration. Maybe you're getting it from some of the front-end forms, or maybe an LWC form rather. All right. And you wanted to perform a certain computation onto that. But then you don't want to make changes into them. If while performing those computations, you don't want to make that your original data should get affected. But JavaScript does that. See, I have stored the value. This is my original data. Let's suppose this data is coming from an external source. It has been received from an integration. It has come from an OmniScript form, or maybe some another LWC form. I wanted to do certain computation. And based on that computational computed value, I wanted to take a certain decision in my JavaScript. But I don't want it that this data should be get changed in this whole process. But it is getting changed. Why? Because JavaScript actually behaves like it. It always makes something called as a deep copy. So it is actually changing my original data. Even though I have copied it out, I was trying to do anything to my copied version. I was trying to make any computation, or maybe whatever the changes I was doing. Although I was doing it on my copied version, but it has also changed my original data. And we have this proof, we have this proof over here. You make changes to the copied version, it has affected your original data. So we don't want it to do that. So in those kinds of circumstances, in those kinds of circumstances, we use spread operator. Now let me try to show you how with the help of spread operator you can avoid, this happening. So I'm going to do one thing. I'll just comment this code first of all, so that it would not make any changes. It would not make any changes to my original data. And at the time of this creating, at the time of this, when I'm created this, um, tools, now I will do one thing. Over here, when I was copying this, I'll do one thing. I'll make a use of spread operator. I'll make a use of spread operator. And yes, now, yeah, I can comment this. I can remove the comment. So what I did is like, instead of copying it directly, prior to that, what I'm doing, I was directly transferring this. So when I was directly transferring the value of this to this, it was making a deep copy. Now, instead of making a direct copy or instead of making a deep copy, I have make a use of spread operator. So spread operator rather would create something called as a shallow copy. So in a general word, when you would use spread operator, it would make one another portion of memory to get reserved for this. And now, because with the help of spread operator, you have created something called as a shallow copy, and then the values you have copied. Later on, when to this array, when you would push something, right? When you will push something, it would only affect the copied version. And when we'll see the output, it would not make any changes. It would not make any changes to the original content. Let me now save it out and let's go back to the developer console. Not developer console, console.log. So now see the difference. You have, with the help of a spread operator, you haven't copied it directly. You haven't made deep copy. If you would, prior to this, the statement was like, कि आपने directly लिख रखा था इसको, कि copy my favorite equals to my favorite. This would make a deep copy. Now with the help of spread operator, you did something called as a shallow copy. So what is the difference with shallow copy? Now, if you would make any changes, like, you just have added something to the copied version, you have added something to the copied version. So it would only be copied into your copied version. It would not make the changes in the original content. See, the original content is still the same, like mango banana. This was a very basic example. The important reason, which I just have told you, in our programming, in later on, we will be facing a certain scenarios wherein, we would receiving something, the original data, and we wanted to perform a certain computation on that data. But we don't wanted to, we don't wanted to update that. We don't wanted to make any changes, any editing to the original data. But what happened with JavaScript, like, whenever you store certain values, it could be an array, it could be any form of property, it could be an object. Mostly with LWC, it's going to be an object. Array bhi ho sakta hai, I'm not saying that, but the reason bata raha hu, this reason is phenomenically it is common. It's same between both of them. Okay. So what would happen in JavaScript is like, if you would make a direct copy, like, in my favorite foods, you just have copied into, it would essentially create a deep copy. So even though what you feel कि हमने तो उसको copy कर रखा है, and you'll try making any changes it out, your original data is also going to be get affected. So in most of the programming circumstances, we don't wanted to affect the original data. So that time we wanted to create something called as actual copied version, a clone version. And that clone version, that copied version, we're going to call it something called as shallow copy. So from this onward, wherever I wanted to clone the original data to create a copied version where I can make a practice, a simulated version. So we're going to make a use of a terminology called as shallow copy. So shallow copy means the copy which you have created to do something, but you don't want it to affect the original data. And how to create a shallow copy? With the help of spread operator. Otherwise, if you wouldn't use that, आपने देखा, just अभी देखा, by default, the JavaScript always creates something called as your deep copy. So if you would make any changes to the copied version, it would make, it would be affected. It would make it would affect your original data too. So we don't want it to do that. All right. So that was the first use case. There are two more of them that would be going to cover in the next video. Uh, if you have any questions, you can post me out. In this YouTube channel, I'll try to answer that. I frequently visit it uh, during my night time. So I visit my channel, and if you have any question, you can post it. I'll try to give you the answer in the same thread. By the way, thank you for joining. If you like it, and if you feel that things are going good, or if you have any suggestions, uh, you are free to give me a suggestion. I'll try to make those improvements. And thank you for joining.